Hi everyone! Now I have got this completed page in front of me because I have had a request to show you how I did this sort of sky effect on this picture. So I have another copy of this picture and I'm going to show you. Now it's not going to be completely identical. I'm not going to say, oh, that bit was yellow and that bit was green, whatever. I'm going to do it slightly my own way, but in the same colours. So firstly, this was I think done with Castle Arts, I'm not sure, but the pink has leaked into the white pen that's used on top. So I've got Polychromos today. I think they'll be a little bit better than these because they won't turn the white pen pink. So that's the first sort of thing to let you know. I've grabbed a handful. I'll just show you actually before we move off. I've grabbed a manganese violet, which actually there isn't one in this, that sort of colour, but I like it. I think it'll work. I've grabbed this cobalt green, which I think is this colour here. Okay, sort of greeny blue, it's a brand new one. This is the orange glaze for the orange areas. This is a blue violet for this. I think it's a slightly dark purpley blue. I've grabbed a yellow. I've grabbed the light chrome yellow because it's quite a light yellow. And a middle purple pink sort of for this. So the manganese violet's sort of an addition, but I think it will make a pretty addition. So that is what I've done. I've just sort of matched them up a little bit, just vaguely. So that was the first step. So now we're going to move away from this one and focus in on this one. This is from, by the way, this is Rita Berman's winter book, and this one is actually from her this is her compilation book. So if you've got either of those books, you can colour along on the actual picture, but you can do it on any picture really. Now this page is a good one to play with backgrounds because we've got so many trees that the background isn't huge. I mean, there is this and then these. There's a fair bit, enough to play with without being too daunting. There is one confusion in this background, which I'll point out to you, is here. See these two trees here? We've got a little bit here which looks like it's a bit of tree, but then the rest of the tree doesn't have that. When I did my picture originally, I just ignored that bit and coloured around it as if it was sky, and then I added in some dots and stars to make it look more like sky, which is what I think I'll do this time as well. So I'm going to grab a pencil and get started. I'm going to grab my middle purple pink. Let us come in much closer, well, a bit closer probably, and start down here. Now this is a bit that you might easily miss because it's under our reindeer. So I'm just going to start by putting a really intense layer here. Actually, I haven't put a piece of paper behind the page, bear with me. I'm just going to do that. I'm pressing quite hard. Just put that under there. There we go. Shouldn't be pressing hard. So layering over and over a bit here, and then you'll want to start to fade it a bit. We want to be able to slightly layer over the colours that we're using now. This little space is a good one to start because it's quite small. So we're going to grab a second colour. Now if we use this blue violet, which is the same colour we used on our other picture, you will see that it can blend in really nicely with the pink. So I'm going to start here where I want a darker bit here and layer it up, and then start to put less layers down and mix it in to our pink like that. Now some of our colours will not mix as nicely because, for example, the blue and the yellow, they might not. We'll have a go. This is, sorry, it's the cobalt green, but, and they go in here. Now we've got these furry bits from our deer. I'm going to ignore those and colour sort of up to where I think the edge would be, because if I want to draw in that fur I can do it with a white pen or a dark brown or black or something, so it'll be fine. I can go over the top. Now I'm going to start to fade this a bit. See? Just less layers. And then I'm going to grab the yellow. Now these aren't going to match up quite so nicely, so I like chrome yellow. And start here quite hard and then less as we go in. You can see it gives us a paler yellow as we mix together like that. And it's not such a good mix. We've got, you can see a line here, but I'm not going to worry about that. Now what you can do next, I'll show you, is you can grab a blending pencil. I'm just trying to find one. I've just ordered some new ones actually. Colouredpencil.shop is where I order my pencils. I realised that I've got my green gold is quite short and I don't have a replacement. So I did an order. This is a Prismacolor colourless blender. For me this is the best all-round blender for all pencils. And what I tend to do with my polys is I will tend to blend across from darkest to lightest, but it's not as effective on polys as it would be on a more smushy pencil like a what should we say, a sort of Prisma. Now I'm going to grab my orange glaze and start up here. Yeah, I just went to colouredpencil.shop, ordered a new green gold. I didn't need any other Polychromos. I've got some backup stock because when the UK left the EU, we knew that, so I'm just fading here. Now the size of your area of colour needs to be slightly randomised, some bits bigger than others. Also, I don't want to just have colour like a stripe. So my next bit, what should we grab? Excuse me, let's grab the manganese violet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit on the edge. So I'm going to start here and then fade down a bit into this pink orange and then across like that. So we've got a sort of different sized area. You can see how this isn't blending particularly well. I don't mind. It's fine. I am happy. Where should we go next? Let's grab a blue. Now, anyway, so I went to colouredpencil.shop, ordered a green gold, and I didn't need any more Polychromos. Because yes, when we left the EU, husband said, look, just buy a 120 set, get a huge set because the prices are going to skyrocket. And so we were lucky that it wasn't quite as bad as we had feared. But I'm going to go for the cobalt green now. Now, what should I do for this one? I think I'll just do a small bit here. So I bought a few more things as well. I bought the two new Prisma colours. Is it Orchid and Amethyst? I can't remember. Anyway, I bought those. And I'm going to go for yellow, I think, next. And I'm going to take this one up higher than this so that it looks a bit different. You can see here it's not blending particularly nicely. It's not, I don't mind. I know that's going to happen with this particular mix of colours. If you want your colours to blend really well, you need ones that work together. You need pinks and purples, or you need oranges, reds and yellows, or you need greens or blues, or, you know, and you can do that. But this picture is not like that. That isn't the intention of the picture. If you look back at the original, they're sort of different colour blocks. So that is what we're going for. So it's just a little bit different. And you can, of course, keep going back to your blending pencil and just working between the layers if you want to. But to be honest, I don't think I'm going to worry about that. I'm going to go back to my orange here. Yeah, so I grabbed some of these Prismas, so I'm quite excited to try those out. And what did I get? I ordered a luminance pencil, which was probably a really silly thing to do. Just one, a nice green. I like my greens, as you know. So for this next bit, I'm going to go for pink. We haven't got a pink and exit right down there. And the middle purple pink. And I'm going to take this one right across. Because I want to mix it up a bit. So this one I'm going to fade down a bit further on this side than this side. And fade it, make it there, but fade it here. I'm going to pop a bit of blue, well, blue-violet in that top corner. So what else did I order? I ordered a couple of the Prisma blending pencils because I knew mine were sort of getting a bit short. I think this one's not too bad, well, with regards to my sort of standards, but yeah, I have a few others sort of quite short ones. One, I think. So here we're going next, doing this bit down here. So I want to avoid these two colours just to start with, and orange because that's there. So I think I'm going to go for the pink here. So we're sort of planning colours a little bit, but not too obsessively. And just working through. Now you don't have to use these exact colours. It's just up to you really. Now the trees trunks that we've got coming through this page, we need to be aware of these as well when picking the colours for the background. So if you've decided you just want to say red, orange, yellow, that would look nice, but make sure that when you do your tree trunks that you do them in a more I'm going to go to this one. I know it's down here. I'm going to use it on this side, not that side. Go for, if you've gone for orange, yellow, red tree trunks, don't go for your sort of sienna's ochre, burnt ochre type colours. You know, your orangey browns, don't use those because they won't show up so much. Go for your really grey, dark browns, your Van Dykes, your walnut browns, your nougat, umbers, dark umber, that sort of thing. So it's quite a contrast to the colours that you've been using already, sort of thing. Where should we go? I was going to go the sort of bluey purple, but it's there. So I think, and the orange is right there too. I think I'm going to go for the yellow. I'm using the same batch of pencils the whole time. I'm sure you've gathered, but just in case, I'm not going to keep showing you the names because as long as you know, you should be able to tell that this is the yellow that I've been using all through. There we go. Now I'm going to go for a bit of purple, blue violet. So just sort of putting a little bit in here. Overlap it here and there, and then put a big deep dark bit, much more intense there, and just taper it off again. I'm going to make it darker here. This bit isn't quite dark enough for my liking either. All that bit, it's going to fiddle a bit. Now if you've got a more intense pencil, say you're using Prismas for example, they would not only blend a little bit more easily together, so you could just put them down next to each other and smush them together with your blending pencil. So it'd be a bit easier, and they would be a little bit more intense, so you might not need to layer up quite as much, but I don't mind. Now what are we going to pop in there? So we've only got because we've only got 6 colours, it limits us a little bit, and that's good in a way because it means that we can't spend too long pondering. There's not a lot of choice, and it just speeds up the whole background process really. Now I need to really intensify that a bit, I think, but fade it off because it gets quite close to here. It's a little bit contrived. I've grabbed my cobalt green and I'm just going to go in there, darken up that bit. Yeah, because I'm sort of choosing colours that I think look randomish, but I don't mind. I think it sort of helps it look better at the end. Now you can see, if I compare it to this one, oops, that it isn't as vibrant. Now, because I'm using a less vibrant pencil, now I could layer and layer and layer and get this more vibrant, but I think I'm okay with it being a little bit paler, so I may not worry too much about that. My paper is turned over a bit there. It's a bit strange. Actually, the paper isn't cut straight, and there was a little bit that was turned over. It's a little bit of a manufacturing error, but it's fine, it's gone now. Now, on this page, I am going to show you some of the other bits as well as this sort of background. I thought I'll show you how to do some of the trees, but there's lots of them, so I won't do too much on those. Let's do orange down here, in here. Hang on. Yeah, that is this bit, which is the sort of confusing bit. It's a bit that confused me because there's no stars and dots in here, but there's also only one tree mark. So I'm going to colour this as if it is just, you know, as if it's just the sky. You could white over that if it worries you. It doesn't worry me. I'm going to leave it. It'll be fine. I left it my other version and I was happy. Now we've got a rather slimmer space here, so could be a little trickier to split up our colours, but I'm sure we can manage. Sorry, I'm not telling you which ones I'm using. I'm hoping it's going to be self-explanatory, and maybe you might do some of your own, but of course you might be doing a completely different picture with a similar background, and therefore it won't really be relevant because you'll be fitting into different size spaces, etc. I don't feel like I've used the manganese violet very much. Have I even used it? I don't know. I should try it in a minute. Here's the manganese. Maybe it just looks really similar. No, it doesn't. I haven't used it yet. I don't think so. Oh, I used it there. There it is. I can use it here as well, just to mix those up. Maybe that's cheating. Maybe it isn't. There we go. Now, I think I need some orange again. Put a bit just on this side. So the idea is if you overlap things a bit, it can seem to work. Just, although they don't naturally blend, it just sort of helps them sit nicer together. I've just gone over the tree there. Try not to do that, but it's not the end of the world. I can eliminate that. So why am I picking these particular colours? Well, as I said before, I'm sort of looking like here I wouldn't do this one, or this one, but also didn't want to do this one or this one, so I didn't have a lot of choice but to do the pink. Yeah, so that's where my sort of thought process is going. And now every so often I can see a bit here which I think needs to be a bit more intense. So while I've got this colour in my hand, I'm just going to go over it a bit more. You know, with Polychromos, they do benefit from having some layers added. So, and it'll begin to look more vibrant if I do that as well. Oops, just hit the table with the chair. Whoopsie. Right, we're down here. I'm going to grab the manganese and start this little bit. Where should we go? I think we'll go in there. Up there a bit. I found these reindeer the trickiest bit of this page to colour, believe it or not. I didn't know what colour to do them. I ended up doing them quite grey. I don't know if they looked a little bit odd, but we shall see when I get there what I choose this time. I usually end up looking things up on my search engine and seeing what they look like, particularly little critters. Well, not little, any sort of animals, because I can never sort of think what colour they should be. Sometimes I just decide, right, all animals on this page can be X colour, and that's okay, but you know, when there's only a few, we sort of think we know what colour they should be. So this is back to the cobalt green. So I sort of check, and so that might be why I did them that colour. I may have just thought they were. Also, they needed to stand out from the trees, of course. You know, put a bit of that in there. So they needed to look quite different. So that was another thing, another sort of factor in the colour. So if they were grey, the trees are quite brown. In my original version, I'll probably do a similar thing. I don't normally do this where I would copy a picture that I've done already, but I did get a request on how to do the sky, so it sort of has to be quite similar, doesn't it? I've grabbed the yellow and it's right there, look. Let's put it over here instead. I'm just going to darken some of these yellow areas too. I sometimes do find it's a bit easier to go back and do it later rather than right away. I'm not sure, I think you can't always see it when you first do it, that it's not working, and because you're sort of mixing colours together as well, you don't want to be too deep right away because they might not mix, you know. There we go. Now I find this looks a lot better once the trees are done. Then it looks like the sky is behind. At the moment it looks like the sky is in front, but that will change. So there's no need to worry if yours looks a little bit strange like that. Once the trees are done, I assure you it will all work. Especially when we put the snow and stars in the sky, I think that always makes a difference too, because then the brain goes, oh, it's sky. I don't think it's a star, I think it's all snow, but I'm not sure. But I picked up this page because I was thinking, what shall I do today? You know, as you do, what shall I colour today? And I was thinking, well, I have done a lot of Johanna, so I'll do someone else. And I was thinking, oh, I could do some Hannah, and I flipped through a few Hannah books. I wasn't really sure, and then there was a particular idea that I had for Hannah page, but I couldn't find a picture that it would work with, so I sort of gave up. And then I thought, well, actually I should be doing some winter pictures while it's still winter, you know, while I can, sort of thing. And so I grabbed this book, and then as I flicked and I saw this page, it reminded me that I'd been asked to do this one. So I thought, yeah, let's have a go. So, and it's quite a fun page actually. Yet again, I've picked up a colour that's right there. It doesn't matter if you've got colours next to each other, but it's quite nice to not have it happening all the time. So I'm going over the orange, as you can see, over various bits. Yes, so you don't want it happening all the time, so you can sometimes do it and sometimes not. Now where should we go? Whoops, manganese violet next. What I have also discovered over sort of Christmas, really, I know it's a while since Christmas, it doesn't feel that long, is I was observing some of Rita Berman's pages, her own personal colouring of her own pages, which she does a lot more than actually most other colouring book illustrators seem to do. And when I was colouring in the postcards that she sent me, I copied her style or some of her versions for a while, and it was nice having a go, because it gets you doing something a little bit different to what you might normally do. But her colour use, the colours that she picks, she uses Polychromos a lot of the time, which is nice for me because obviously I use those two. See, we have, again in here, we have what looks to me like a bit of sky. That's how I'm going to colour it. But there's no stars or snow in it. So we will add those in again on this one once we finish the background. So I was having a look at her style, which is beautiful, and she uses quite an interesting range of colour. See, here we don't have a line. Can you see there? I'm just going to draw that in, and that bit's tree. I've probably done it not quite the right place, to be honest, but never mind. I'll have to, once I do my tree, we'll sort of finish that off a bit. So she uses a lot of light phthalo green and olive green, sort of pinks and purples, oranges and green gold all together, and they don't feel like natural friends, but oh my, they look so nice. So if you have a look at any of her work, she puts it on Instagram. I think she's on Facebook, but I think her Facebook account is a personal private one rather than a public one. So yeah, Instagram is the best place to find her colouring, and the colour use is just so beautiful. So I was inspired and I had a go with some of my postcards. I have done a flip through the postcard book. It was the Africa postcard book. If you search for Africa on my channel, you can find it. It's spelled Afrika, because it's the German way of spelling it. And I did a flip through, so any of you who didn't see my Instagram daily posts, as I did one a day in December because she sent it me as a sort of advent, which was lovely. So those of you that missed that can catch up easily by having a look. Now this is going to be a challenge. I've got a really dark one going into a yellow, so what I'm going to do is start a little bit higher than and put my most intense colour here, and then gently fade it into the yellow like that, and I will put some yellow back on top of that later. You know how I have been going back and colouring over some of the areas like I'm doing now. And I will do that with that yellow. You can see how it is becoming more vibrant as I just go back over areas. Whoops. Well, be very careful with the edge. If you go down from the top, you can spoil the paper, so go in that direction towards the edge when you're colouring at the edge of paper. I'm sure most of you know all this already, but why not remind you just to be a bit careful. I actually have to say I like pages where you've got a sort of frame like this one over here, where it doesn't go all the way to the edge of the page, and then you can just do a bit of a pastel background, and then pastels, because you're sweeping them on gently with a cloth or whatever, even if you're drawing with them, they don't, because they're not sharp, they don't have the same impact on the paper sort of thing. I'm not going to do all pink because this one is, and this has got a lot as well, so I'm just going to quickly end that there because it's a bit too much, but I'm going to come down here and just mix that in with that green. It's pink and green again, don't naturally mix, but you can just have a go. And here, look. I'd say if you just keep working it a little bit each time, then it will eventually just sort of mix in. I'm just going to fade that a bit. And what colour am I going to do? I think I'm going to do this cobalt green. I think it'll work. Now you might think, oh, I'm not daring enough to do a background. Well, backgrounds are actually, they take time, patience, that's fair, but I find them not quite so scary as detail sometimes, and I'll tell you why. If this background goes totally wrong, obviously I'm quite happy with how it's going, it's not going to go wrong, I know that for sure. What can I do? Well, I can grab a black Posca pen, squodge all over it with black, and then draw the stars back in. Or I can go over it with a silvered, not silver, probably wouldn't show up, some sort of gel pen, you know, or even a felt tip pen. If I don't have like a, I'm not sure they go through, I don't think they go through the page, I would check, obviously, first in this book. It's a pretty colour, isn't it? Let's spoil it with some orange. Yes, so I would, you can just colour right over the top, because a background can be, like this is night sky, I think. I mean, do it however you want. But I think this is the sort of night time snowy sky, but why I've done it this colour, who knows? But it works. And so it doesn't matter if it's black, that would be the colour of the sky. Or you could, you know, do it any colour really. If you use Posca pen, it's a paint, so it just covers everything. I've covered over, the darker the better though. I have covered over, I did try and cover a mistake once in a, oh, Johanna's Christmas. I was doing the poinsettia page, if any of you got the book, you'll know which one. And I thought, oh, I know, I'll do something a bit clever. And around the edge of the design, there's a bit of space. I thought, I've seen Chris Cheng has done some fairy lights on one of her videos that she'd done that particular year. And so I thought, I'm going to do some fairy lights on my page. I think it will look really nice. Drew these fairy lights. They looked awful. I don't know what I did wrong, but they... Now again, we have this trunk doesn't come all the way down, so I'm just going to draw it in a little bit here. And then I'll make that bit the tree. So yes, looked terrible. So I was like, and I fiddled and fiddled, tried to make it good, just made it worse and worse. I'm sure most of you have done a similar thing with various different things that you've tried. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I covered it over with a gold Posca pen. Problem is that the gold is semi-transparent, unlike the black, which covers everything. The gold, it didn't seem to, so you could still see through it a little bit, so I had to layer it up a few times, but eventually I did manage to cover it over and delete my messy error. I think again I should have put a bit of tree in there, but never mind. But yes, so I have done it too, but you can cover it over. Sorry, I'm just going to wipe my nose. Now, with the other thing on this page that is slightly confusing, I found, was down here. What's going on here, like between these trees? What I did on my original one, I'll show you, is I made it the ground and just kept that level. And that's what I'm going to do. I think it makes more sense. These trees are right in front. I don't think the sky would go all the way down to there. So I just sort of drew it in. I can see where I've put a little pencil line in, but I'm not going to put a pencil line in. I should just sort of stop here when I get to that bit. I know we're not near that yet, but I've just sort of spotted it, so I thought I would just tell you about it. In case I've just in case I'm just nattering and I forget to mention it when we get to that bit. So let's put in this sort of yellow. You can see how the yellow and the violet make a sort of lighter colour in there, which looks a bit manky. I shall cover it over a bit more. Manky is a good word, isn't it? Do you all use the word manky? I don't know whether it's a dialect word or if it's a UK word or if it's just a word everybody says. Don't know, I get fascinated by language. It's I find it really interesting that sometimes in this country people are very much like, I'm just going to get the manganese violet. This looks horrible. I'm going to go over it. People in this country, some of them don't like Americanisms. They think it's not good, that it doesn't work for us. And yet we have lots of dialects even within our country which people seem to think is fine. I think it's a little bit of a oddity. I don't really understand it, why. And the same, sometimes we don't usually get the same thing with Australian words. You know, there are words that Australians use differently to us. I think perhaps people are less aware because, yeah, I suppose we get some Australian TV, but not anything like as much. You know, we obviously get our soap operas, we get Neighbours and Home and Away from Australia. And we used to have, was it Knots Landing? No, that's American, isn't it? No, they're the Flying Doctors, that's it. And I think that's about it. And we do see some Australian films in our cinemas. Trying to think of some things like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and is it Muriel's Wedding? Is that Australian? But America is far more prolific with regards to TV shows over here. We get so many, lots of comedies, lots of films, of course, and things like that. So I think people sort of see it more, and because the Australian programs are mainly soap operas, soap operas, then there are some people who just don't watch any soap operas, British ones included, so they just wouldn't see it. I'm going to put a bit of orange in there, look. So I think there is that as well, sort of thing going on, you know. And we always find it quite fascinating, actually. It's something I talk to my family about. We used to watch Neighbours and Home and Away quite a lot when I was younger. None of us watch it now. I did watch the last ever episode of Neighbours, but of course it's come back. It was quite fun. Just wanted to see Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan and Natalie Imbruglia and people like that in it. It was quite cool. But anyway, of course it's come back now. I don't know if we're showing it again in the UK yet, but I'm not sure because a different channel have taken it over. Anyway, I don't know. But yeah, I remember watching it. Oh, I'm just trying to be careful on this edge. Watching it a lot. And I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to go over that bit because it's bothering me. There we go. Okay. I'm just looking here, checking. I think that's all tree. That's tree. Yeah. So, I think, yes, as I say, I think a lot of people are less likely to have been exposed to Australian TV than American. We've even started getting Jeopardy, but it's a UK version though. We've never had it in the UK before. I think with a quiz show we can't really go across nations because the types of knowledge is different. You know, if the questions are too specific to that country, it wouldn't really relate across, you know. But we have a lot of American quiz shows that we've, you know, taken on for ourselves, like Family Fortunes. I think, is it called Family Feud or something like that in America, and then Wheel of Fortune, things like that. But Australia-wise, not so much. Oh, and things like, I'm assuming, no, actually, I was going to say the X Factor, but I think that was actually started here. But anyway, it is interesting, and I just think that we should be a little bit more open-minded with regards to language and dialects and things. So I know there's a version of English that's spoken in some Asian countries, and it's got a slightly different name because it's slightly adapted versions to make it easier, and I'm all for that. You know, I think it's very kind of people to try to speak English when we here in England, I can't speak for people in other English speaking countries, we're absolutely rubbish at learning foreign languages. Rubbish. You know, it's, you know, you go to Holland, for example, I've been. This one's really pale, I'm going to go back over it in a minute. Been to Holland, they all speak English. Well, not all of them, but most of them do. And where else have I been? Where they've spoken, you know, even if you go to Spain on holiday, that sort of thing, a lot of them speak English. It's it can be a bit embarrassing, to be honest, but I think there's almost a thing of us saying, well, they should speak English, when I disagree. You know, we should learn their language, but because we don't have to, we get a bit lazy. But there are people, of course, we're coming back down and just redoing some of these because it's a bit faint here, isn't it? There are people, of course, who speak languages really well in this country, but most people don't seem to. But I think we're lucky in the sense that because America speaks English and they have quite an influence, that helps us, that people will speak it. If our language, if Americans spoke a different language, I think we'd have to learn it, you know. And because I think all the movies and the lots of things would be in their language. We're just lucky. I mean, obviously it's because, you know, Americans came from England, a lot of them, to start with. Obviously there are little clusters of lots of nationalities. Of course there are. I think Dutch is quite a big bit, isn't it? So I was hearing the other day. But there's all sorts, like there is here. We've got a big mix, particularly in cities. The cities get a bigger mix of nationalities. I think people who live in cities are much more... can you see how this is looking like I've got a pale green when I haven't got a green at all, but you can see it here and here where we're mixing this cobalt green together with the yellows. But when it mixes here with the orange, it looks a bit yak, but that's okay because that's what we're doing. Now here we've got another bit of confusion. Our tree comes down here and then it disappears. In my original one, my tree does disappear. I think I want it there. So I'm going to try and think about like this wibbly line. It goes down here, down here, down here. I think it'd be about here. Okay, and this one I think would be, so I think I'm going to start my sky here and then colour that as tree. Hopefully I'll remember to do that as a tree once I get there. And put a bit of yellow on this bit. There we go. We're sort of almost at the end. We've got this big thick section and we've got our side bit as well. I think also being on YouTube has opened my eyes a lot to other cultures, other ways of thinking, which is really nice. I don't watch loads of YouTube videos, but because you guys comment on my videos and some of you send me messages and things, I've sort of got to learn a lot. It's good. I think it's made me much more open-minded with regards to what goes on in other countries and being accepting of different types of people, which I think is so important for us all to do. And yeah, that sort of thing. And having a bit more kindness and understanding it's really helped me with, in the sense that I think that's been more an influence from Johanna Basford though, because she just is such a lovely, kind, generous, beautiful person that has really influenced me, and it's good, and it makes me want to emulate that really. There's been a few other influences personally that have made me think that too. One of my dad's cousins was like the kindest person that I ever knew, and I sort of think of her a lot and how she was, and it wasn't about acts of kindness in that sense. It was about not speaking badly of anyone, and being generous in her. There were acts of kindness in her behaviour. As she got older, she couldn't, it perhaps didn't apply quite so much with regards to, you know, she would get on a bus, she would give up her seat to people younger than herself if they looked like they needed it, that sort of thing. Immediately she saw them arrive, she would stand straight up, that sort of thing. And as a teenager, I remember thinking, would I never do that? And I thought, to start with, I was like, well, I paid for my ticket, I deserve a seat. But now I'm older, I'm thinking, gosh, did I even think that? Did I say that? How embarrassing that I thought that I had a right to a seat when everybody's paid for their ticket, not just me. And if there isn't one, and I'm very capable of standing, I should be, you know. And so that had a huge influence on my sort of thinking about being kind to others. And she wasn't always that steady on her feet, and you know, but she would still think of other people first. And she used to go and visit my gran, and my gran had an interesting temperament, and she often fell out with one of her other nieces, but I didn't fall out with her, but I was too young, you know, and also she was my gran. But it's I think sometimes people have personalities that are too similar, you know, and they sort of grate against each other. But if you're stubborn, or you think you're right and you don't want to listen to anybody else, that sort of thing, it can create a few problems. But anyway, she would always just listen and be kind, and she would visit her regularly. Particularly after her mother died, she would go and see her aunt instead. Yeah, it's just that also opened my mind to, you know, when she passed away, I thought I want to continue that legacy of kindness that she spread, you know. It's something we can all do, even just if it's within our own household. And I think it makes a huge difference to society. I think my dad was just talking about it the other day, actually, saying how we just all need to be kinder to each other in this world. There's things going on that I'm not going to talk about because they're horrible. So why are they going on? We just need to be nicer, kinder, more accepting, and then we could prevent a lot of the nasty things that are happening, you know. And yeah, he's right. But it's very difficult to try to do that when you feel like you've got no power over the governing people that make decisions on things. But what I do is if I have a very strong opinion on something, I write to my MP, who's our Member of Parliament, and say, this is my view on this. I'd love it if you could use your influence to do something about it, to represent us and my point of view. You know, you're my sort of voice in Parliament, and whether they choose to do that or not is up to them, but that's all I can do when it comes to big issues, matters, etc. So I do that, and then I leave that alone, because otherwise I get stressed about the fact that I've got no control over the situation, I feel helpless, etc. So I leave that alone. I think, well, I've done everything I possibly can that I feel I can do. So what I need to do now is just to try to be happy and kind and hope to spread that a little bit. And relaxation, I think, is such a huge thing in society, which is why I love that I can do something here which will hopefully help people to relax, because I think that's huge. Stress is such a big factor in our modern society, and stress can make us shout, it can make us get angry, it can make us be less open-minded towards people because we just think the world is against us. And so if we can just get some rest from that stress, I think it makes a big difference. And it's not easy, it really isn't. And something I have been thinking of doing. Right, we're going to go across here. I'm going to draw in that. I'm just going to draw it there and take a bit of sky up from there like that. One thing so colouring really helps me with my stress. And another thing I need to do is to stop reading the news so regularly. It's there online all the time. We can have a look at it, we can see what's going on, we can get in-depth reports on all the horrific things that are happening here, there and everywhere across the whole world. It's just too easy. We need to stop, because it just makes you feel sad, depressed, maybe lonely, maybe vulnerable, everything. And we need to try to not let it do this. What we have done this year is we have subscribed, well, it was a Christmas gift. We were asked what we wanted for Christmas, and we've got a subscription to something called Positive News. Now you can look at some of their articles online, and it's far better. So it's like, here is what's being done to help the environment, here is something that's been done to try and help this and that, here's a success story of someone who's come from a background that you wouldn't think that they could manage from, and they have done remarkably well. All that sort of thing. Whoops, just knocking my tripod, sorry. Right, I'm shaking up my white pen. We're going to do the background white bits next. I've just realised that here there is snow drawn on top of this tree trunk, just here and here and here, but nowhere else. I did draw some of it in on my original, but I'm not going to do that now, obviously, because I don't want to put white pen on top of the trunk. I'm just going to paranoidly check to make sure I have done all the background. Yes. So now I'm going to cover over where Rita has drawn these star shapes and the dots of snow. Okay, and in the little sections where she hasn't drawn it in, I am going to just draw it in myself. Now, I'm not very comfortable drawing these little star shapes, but I'm just going to have to go for it. That one's going to disappear into that yellow. Of course, white doesn't really show up on yellow, but we can't leave it black. It's going to look a little bit odd. So we'll just put an extra star in there instead, so it looks a bit more balanced. You can always add in extra dots if you think you want some more. I mean, as much as we don't want to go against what Rita's done, it might just work with the colours that you've been using, you know. So I am going to try to limit how often I look at the news, I go onto that bbc.co.uk website far too many times a day. And it's not like the news changes, you just get a reminder of the nasty thing that happened yesterday, the court case, the whatever it might be. You know, because the thing is, not only does something horrible happen, then if it's something against another person, there's then a court case, or there might be a review, or it comes up in Parliament or something, whatever. Yeah, not always, depends what it is. And so you get a reminder of it later, and it just doesn't do us any good. Because the way stress works, as many of you will know, is that we have what's called a fight or flight response in our body, which is where we respond with us to give us energy to get rid of the problem. So if we were being attacked by a tiger, our body would go, right, I need to get ready to run away or to attack. So your adrenaline goes up, you're on edge, you're more observant of everything, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure's up, everything. And when we read a news article, we get that same thing. And when it's not a nice news article, and because we aren't going to get up off our chair, I'm just making this up in this one now, because, you know, to fight the tiger, I'm still doing it on that yellow, even though you can't really see it, just in case you look closely. That adrenaline doesn't leave our body, it sits in there doing us all sorts of harm. So one thing that's good to do is to try and bring that down, and that is easier said than done. But one thing you can do is just take a few slow, deep breaths, think about something a little bit different, something nice, a holiday, a beach, a forest, your garden. Oh, I haven't done down here. I need to do these. You know, something that makes you feel happy, people in your life that make you happy. Don't know what it might be. I can't tell you what it is. You know, there'll be various, I think it's better to start at the top. Various things that make you feel good, and if you think of those, your negative hormones disappear and your body gets flooded with the positive ones. So whether you're distressed, angry, worried, in pain, any of those things, you can use some techniques to try to help. And, you know, just as I say, just a few deep breaths, concentrating on your breathing can help. It doesn't help me a lot personally, because sometimes I have breathing problems, so thinking about your breathing makes you focus on the problem. So what I tend to do is I try and relax a part of my body that's tense but not in pain. So that might be a shoulder, you know, sometimes your shoulders get a bit hunched, or even toes, fingers, something like that. And just concentrate really hard on just making all the muscles there really, really loose and soft and just relaxed feeling. And that just distracts my brain enough to stop me focusing too hard on whatever it is. I'm adding in a few extra bits of snow here that has been bothering me. Just take yourself away from those thoughts or that situation. It's harder when we're in a situation, I have to agree, but if we can, then our attitude towards what's going on can help us to cope better. I used to, one person I used to read a lot, Jack Black, he, in his Mind Store book, he would advise you to go to the, what does he call it? I can't think. Anyway, no, to go to the loo. He has a name for it. To go to a loo, not to go to the loo. Well, I mean, you can if you want, but to go lock yourself away out of the situation and take some time to chill, relax, you know, take some deep breaths. Whatever it is your technique to just get away from that situation. So if you're at work or even out and about, to just go away from the situation can help you to sort of calm, you know. So even whether you're at a relative's house and someone's winding you up with what they're saying, or if you're out in the street and something's happening that's frightening you, or your mind is just overthinking something, you can just take yourself away and just take some breaths and, you know, concentrate on trying to sort of relax a little bit. And that was quite useful. I remember doing that before my driving test. As in the UK, you always have a driving lesson just before your test. I think we do. I always did it. I did anyway. So I did an hour of driving lesson, and then I drove to the test centre, and then I was like, I've just got to go to the loo, and she was like, but your examiner's already here. I was like, well, I've got to go. And I just went there, and I actually did go to the loo because, you know, I wanted to make sure I didn't need to go in the middle of my test. But I took a few minutes to just, I knew I didn't have long, but literally a couple of minutes just to take some deep breaths, calm myself down, get myself ready, and imagine passing. I did that. I visualised that when I returned back to the test centre that I would be told that I'd passed, and I did. So that was good. So yeah, I've used it a lot in lots and lots of different situations, but that was quite a good example. And the reason that it was even better was that my instructor hadn't taught me to parallel park until the lesson before my test, because she'd forgotten that I didn't know how to do it. So I knew that if that came up in my test, I would fail because I hadn't had enough practice. And it didn't come up. So I was lucky I've never parallel parked since, because I don't know how to do it. But for me, it's not been a problem. I don't drive anymore anyway. And I don't feel like I ever want to drive again. I find it so scary and stressful. I just made up my mind that I wasn't going to put myself through that stress anymore. And I get constantly reminded of it at times when sometimes I say to people, you know, you do need to try and face up to your stress a little bit and do things that take you out of your comfort zone. Oh, but you won't drive. I know, but I just decided that I'm just going to wipe my pen, it seems to be getting a bit dirty, that the stress, I'm going to give it a shake, wasn't worth it. I think sometimes you have to do that if you're, there we go, it's better, a bit cleaner. It's gone a bit orange. Obviously society doesn't allow us to give up on everything, you know, but there are ways of changing what you're doing, adapting things, learning to cope. And yes, I should have used my relaxation techniques, and I tried, but you can't close your eyes and take a few deep breaths while you're actually driving. Not recommended. I tried to take the deep breaths, but I don't know. So many things happen. I had so many incidences that scared me. And the other night, I had a nightmare that I was driving the car and I had an accident. I still get nightmares about the thought of driving even now. It really did have that sort of an impact on me. Yeah, I used to have loads of dreams that I was putting my foot on the brake and the car was slowing down so slowly I knew I was going to crash. Things like that. Ooh. So I decided that I just needed to stop. So, and I had driven for quite a few, let me think, yeah, probably 3 or 4 years on and off. I'm just going to hold the page down. I don't put my hand down on any of the wet pen. Oh, no, that's no good. Hang on, I'm going to put a little sharpener on the top there. And that's creating far too much shadow. Oh well, I just have to find a way to manage. So if your page starts curling up a bit like this one, just put something down on it. I'm trying to do half stars in some of these spaces because it's so narrow. Now this background will look better once the trees are done, believe me, because at the moment it does look like it's the foreground and my other one doesn't. So I think it's just because it's of the way it is. I'm going to come out and take the piece of paper out so you can see how it looks without that. Now that's taken quite a long time, hasn't it? But I am going to go back over those white stars. I think they're quite faint, but maybe there's better if they're faint. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to make that do. It's been a long old video. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that's been useful for you. And I will come back and do the rest of the page, so don't worry. Tomorrow we'll deal with trees and other things. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you have a super day and happy colouring.